Okay, it's live, and then let me also figure out a good way. Can I-
What part of this is live for me? Just my voice.
So far, that's like I'm trying to get in normal calls, like I can get your icon there. I could probably get. Okay, I've got your icon at least up there now with mine, so our icons are there. Uh, and then
Oh,
I don't. Hopefully, I'm not
how
doxing.
can I join? How do I join your stream without downloading this app?
Oh,
Do I?
okay. Uh, Let me send you a link to that.
I just want to see like what you're seeing. I guess.
And let me also not. There's probably a better way to show this. But yeah, let me go ahead. This should be. Yeah, yeah. So this is live here, which is excellent. And I think the fan is not running, which is also good. And. Oh, okay. I'm already. Oh, these are your DMs. Okay. So there's that. And then how do I
Sliding into my DMs.
take this
Your YouTube link.
conversation into like
Wait, where'd it go? Oh, here it is.
oh wait, what if all right, whatever.
I'm
Uh,
watching now. Hey, that's me. I think. Oh, there's two watching now. Maybe that one's me.
okay.
Does it does it count you as a viewer? Do you know?
Oh shit. Does it count me as a viewer?
Well, now it says
Ah,
one watching.
it
I don't know.
may not. Okay, so yeah, there's it's just my Steam right now, and that like our two icons are from what I can see, which is nice. We got it fucking going on, and I can pull up a game at one point. But you were going to ask me a question about some kind of lefty conference or something like that. And by the way, this is the beginning of a good thing. I just have a sense that this is the beginning of a good thing.
Wow, I appreciate that. You put a lot of stock into me.
I do.
Quite the investment.
I do. Yeah. Yeah,
I
our
was talking
friendship
about
is a great investment.
yeah, I was talking about Jackson Hinkle. Did you watch those videos? Because we were talking about Sam Cedar earlier.
No, I don't know about Jackson Hinkle. So what's the deal here?
Okay. Yeah, he's like, I guess he's like some leftist podcast, and he was talking shit about Sam Cedar, and then Sam
Oh,
had him on the show to debate him, and it was really stupid. It was like 2 hours long, and it was like the worst content I've ever seen.
oh, that's
He's one of
disappointing.
those like he's like literally chronically online, like
Uh,
supports all the stupid like forced to vote stuff, and like the fraud squad. He was using all the terms.
oh.
I was listening to it with my dad on the drive up to Illinois, and it was just like terrible. We were both like, "Oh my god, this is awful."
There was one guy who called in that was really creepy on Sam's show where he's like asking about like Sam's kids and stuff and like how he won't reproach them or whatever. I don't know. It was super weird. But
Yeah,
then
he gets some really weird calls sometimes.
yeah, there was one that was semi interesting. I gather the dude was an engineer and he was saying, you know, like by ammonia production standards and steel production standards and plastic and so forth, we're not gonna be able to do the Green New Deal. I guess he was focusing on for some reason,
That one
and
too.
Sam literally boiled him down to like, well, you're an engineer, so you think things are an engineering problem, which is
Yeah.
savage to do, especially when you're like you're a political streamer, and then you're like, it's a political problem. Like I agree, it's a political problem, but that's just funny.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, or is there more? Am I cutting you off here? Is there more to the Jackson Hinkle shit?
No, I'm just asking if you'd watch those videos.
Oh
Because this is
no,
called Lefties Talk Shit About Lefties.
true. We might have to pull some of those up. I mean, to
Yeah.
talk shit
I mean, it's
about
like really
him talking
cringe.
shit about another lefty. That would
Yeah,
actually
it's
be a nice like tesseract or whatever, or tessellation of
yeah,
lefty
it's just
shit
cringe
on.
because we both consider ourselves leftists. So to see other people that call themselves leftists, and it's like, oh wait, I'm not that. Maybe I'm not a leftist. Makes me
I
reevaluate my place on the political compass.
I don't see how they make us you know have to question ourselves. I'm not seeing it. We're probably more left than they are ultimately.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, that's what I mean by like I don't know how to define. Everybody has a different definition of what a leftist is, apparently. But he
I
like called
guess that's
himself an
true.
American patriot. He said he was like a Marxist Leninist American patriot.
That's
I was like,
awesome.
what? That makes no sense.
How does that not make sense?
Right.
um,
Communists are the most loyal to America. 100%.
I actually heard a conservative breakdown communism recently in a way that I wasn't totally unopposed to, uh, where he basically works up through the logic to, liberals are trying to preserve the peace through a gradualism, but the Marxist says, well, there is no peace, and the oligarchs have to go. And that is, I think, that is where we are. I
Yeah.
think people don't realize that.
I heard someone say the only thing the rich should run for is their lives.
And
And that makes sense to me.
we only need to eat one rich person before they start to get the idea.
Yeah.
Like that should hopefully wake the rest of them up. I would think we would only need to eat one rich person, but
I say I say we should start with Hassan Piker.
true.
Definitely. Yeah.
Pulling the big
He owns a
man,
house and a car. That's not okay.
big
Too
man, little
far.
car routine, like Mr. Incredible. Is he a socialist? Because it's a socialist car when you think about it. It's a German car.
Yeah, Porsche. But socialists
Exactly.
don't own things, right? Isn't that how it works?
Socialism is when no
Socialism
food.
is when you yeah, when you don't do anything at all.
I thought that was depression.
Oh, well what's the difference?
Um,
People do get people do get pretty socialist during a depression. Like a Great Depression, economic depression. So that's nice, I think.
and they should have gotten socialistic before the Great Depression, right? Like that would be something. Like if we could pull that together.
Like Teddy Roosevelt, right? Like the 1890
The
or whatever.
trust busting stuff,
Yeah.
breaking up.
I
Yeah,
mean,
he broke up that Gilded Age. So what was the difference? I mean, like clearly Congress wasn't as bought out and controlled, and people weren't as bought out and controlled, and like people had
he got one term, and then he
what's
tried to
that?
run again and couldn't win.
Right,
Right.
right. Well, they're like, yeah, that has to go.
And then
Like
they
we can't
changed the
have any
rules
more
of
of
how many
that.
times he could run for president after FDR. So Congress is pretty corrupt. Like they can unite when they need to protect themselves.
Oh well, I mean, their Congress is united the whole time running, basically. I mean, that might actually segue decently into one of the questions I had on my mind for you is, and this is an easy one for lefties shitting on lefties. Uh, what's the most recent thing Joe Biden has done or not done that has caused you distress or pissed you off?
Nominate a black woman to the Supreme Court.
The fucking anti-union
Yeah.
corporate lawyer.
I don't know if that's who he's gonna pick, but that's probably who he's gonna pick.
Like he's literally fronting her, and then Murkowski's like, don't pick the leftmost justice,
Actually, I
please.
guess even more recently than that was saying that Mitch McConnell was his friend.
Right, that was amazing.
I guess that was like yesterday.
That was too good, honestly. You're right.
Yeah,
You're
it never stops.
absolutely right.
Every day there's a new thing.
It truly doesn't stop. They don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming with Biden. Like, he's a good liar. Like, that's the thing about him. An amazing liar.
Yeah, didn't he like get accused of plagiarism or something? Or convicted? I don't know if you can use the word convicted, but corroborated.
What did he plagiarize? I didn't hear about this.
Oh yeah, it was like some college speech or something. I don't remember exactly, but it was like when he was running for president in the '80s, and somebody had like said he plagiarized one of his speeches, and then he withdrew from the race.
Oh, damn.
And yes, you heard that right. He ran for president in the '80s. That's how fucked up everything is.
Joe
Imagine Ronald
Brandon.
Reagan running for president right now. That's what. That's where we are.
Wow.
Or George W. Bush's dad running for president. I'm pretty sure he died. So
That's true. I think he did die. Is that true? Let's see. G.W. Bush dead. Pretty sure that happened. Death and funeral of George H.W. Bush. That was in 2018. He was the 41st president. That guy. He died of Parkinson's.
damn.
And the liberals yearn for his day. They want him back.
PC are we trying to be on this?
Not I don't think we're trying to be very PC at all. Like, I mean, we have no one. We have nothing
Well, I
to
guess you put a
lose.
swear word in the title of the video, which is against YouTube policy.
I did?
Yeah. You literally called the stream "Lefties Talk Shit About Lefties." Shit is good. Yeah, you're not allowed to use that. So this video can't even be monetized, even if if it was popular.
Perfect. That's where we want to start, honestly.
Yeah, I think you can't swear in the first 90 seconds, or something like that. There's
Of
some
the
weird
video?
rule about it.
Really?
Yeah, of the video, and you can't obviously put swears in the title. I think.
What has this country become? I know that YouTube isn't a country, but
Monopolistic. I mean, it might as well be. It's like it's more like a
it's
state.
a
Google is the country, and then
it's a it's a digital fiefdom.
like a territory. Yeah.
It's part of a digital fiefdom. Like, that is um the Yanis Varoufakis model, who was a temporary economic minister of Greece, and he says we're in techno feudalism and that capitalism is over.
Well, that's like what the metaverse is supposed to be.
Well, the
Literally,
metaverse.
you have your studio apartment is literally just like a square with like a toilet and a bed, and that's it.
Right.
And then it's like basically like a prison cell, and then you
Oh.
just put on the headset. to do
Like the
anything.
athletes at the Olympics right now, rip, no internet.
Yeah, basically. I
But
didn't know. Was that like a China policy or something? Isn't it in China?
yeah, they have the great Chinese firewall, but they you know, they I believe uplift it for American business people to go over, but of course it's all heavily monitored. And they uplift it for like their own executives in the CCP, of course.
Right.
But and they could do it for the athletes, but they haven't, as far as I've seen. Like, the athletes have no internet, which is a big ripperoni. So I wonder what they're doing in fucking quarantine in between their games. I mean,
What they normally do, which is like have sex with each other.
well, I'm sure they're not doing as much of that in China right now, given like the strictness that they're gonna try to enforce things with. That would just be my guess. I would guess that they wouldn't allow all that frolicking.
Frolicking.
Yeah. What were we talking about right before that tangent, actually? big moment, big oof. Uh,
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm
we'll
still thinking about Joe Biden plagiarizing stuff.
we'll get it back. We'll get it back. There's plenty to shit on about liberals. It's a wonderful thing. It's an endless wealth of information that you could never really exhaust. It's a beautiful thing. Great
I mean, liberals
Chinese
aren't leftists though.
firewall. No, they're not, but they're left of something. I mean, it's hard to even call them left oriented at all. They are basically Republicans.
Well, it's
They're
like yeah,
functional
center right.
Republicans. Exactly. Center right. There's something about the libs, of course. Oh yeah. Digital fiefdoms. So like the metaverse and that one square apartment or however. Like the metaverse in trying to be a digital fiefdom is inspired by things like Steam, as I am on Steam here right now. Um, because Steam, uh, well, first of all, created like digital items that could be bought and sold in their own marketplaces, like their cards and shit, and the Team Fortress hats and like the aesthetic items. And these were like NFT precursors that were like prioritizing and adding to exchange value as the supreme value over experience value and any other kind of value. And then through the games, like in this marketplace where they're making their own items and dictating their own terms, uh, people, myself included, have spent a lot of time in here and in these games, and we've debated and we've made things, we've made content, we've made items of our own, we've traded, we've literally lived these, digital lives. And so, and when you look at like Amazon and Google and the way they control like what you see and who buys and sells, like they are more than just monopolies. They are their own markets. They are digital fiefdoms where like we have these new feudal lords, these neo feudal conditions.
Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, I can see it.
The capitalism started to end in the 70s when the money became fake. 71, we went to
Yeah, like
the
right around when the computer was invented.
and we went to the we went off the gold standard to a fiat currency. So all the money was then made up essentially. With financialization could happen. Credit happens somewhere in there. Student debt happens somewhere in there from the 70s onward, or at least most of it. Because like most of
I thought credit
those,
was like the 1920s.
was it the 20s?
Isn't isn't credit what caused the like the
Bro,
Roaring Twenties was everybody was getting credit cards and didn't understand how they
bro,
work. So like they were buying cars and shit, and then nobody was paying anything back.
bro. People were
Yeah.
buying things on credit.
Although it
Did they
definitely got
have
worse.
did they have
In
credit
the
cards in the 20s? I guess they
I think so, right?
yeah, I guess they would have. Hmm.
If I could spell the word right.
The use of credit cards was yeah, it did originate in the 1920s. So yeah,
Yeah, but
absolutely. So I guess then most of the debt, I will say,
yeah, well, yeah, that like exploded in the 70s, and the deficit has been like out of control since Reagan. Like his lasting legacy was completely destroying any sort of chance of us getting out of the deficit.
true, because they're just adding to the fucking expenses by continually bailing out rich people and uh, the trickle down economic stuff, right? I mean, not redistributing any of that, not putting it back in, just cost, cost, cost. Like that's all being eaten up by the corporations.
I mean, the top marginal tax rate used to be like 90%, and now it's like 35 or whatever, or 27, whatever it was. And it's like every time a Republican gets in, they lower it a little bit more, and then Democrats fail to bring it anywhere close to what it was before the Republican got there.
Yeah, what
So
did
it just
you?
continues to get lower.
I was under the impression like even under Reagan, the top tax bracket was actually like really high. I thought it was like in the 70s or the 80%
Yeah, well, he started the
range.
trend of like lowering it and giving like lots
Right,
of tax breaks.
right. And
So
now,
it
like you
trickle,
said,
it's
it's
like
like
trickled down.
it's effectively below 20%. Or if you're like Bezos or Elon, you just basically pay nothing.
Effectively
I mean,
zero.
obviously, Elon just recently paid taxes on the stocks like he
Yeah,
sold.
I mean they have like a negative tax rate essentially.
Right, exactly. Like, I see people tossing the football back and forth about whether or not increasing the interest rate will be a good or a bad thing.
Increasing the interest rate.
Yeah, like the Fed is going to jack up the rates, and I've seen arguments like, both for why corporations would want the interest rate increase and for why they would not.
I don't know. Explain it to me. I don't know anything about finance. I thought it had something to do with houses, like how much you pay when you buy a house.
Yeah, I mean, my general impression, my general Barry ball and stick impression is like the interest rate is loosely like how much the money costs. I mean, that makes sense in terms of what you're gonna have to pay back for loans and so forth. Um,
Right.
but the corporations are supposedly going to want uh, to have the interest rate stay low so that the money stays cheap and that they can continue to buy things and like basically if the money's cheaper and more available, then it's gonna affect the people that have the most money, but I guess everything affects the people that have the most money. Like I don't really know anything about it either. Is basically where I'm at with it, where I see people arguing both ways about the interest rate and what it's
Most
gonna
rich
do.
people. Yeah, I feel like most rich people just like file bankruptcy. Like they don't ever pay back their debts anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Or you like leverage your debt and use it to buy things.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, low interest rate is nice, but it's also part of the reason why there's like so much inflation because now there's just money everywhere. Right? Nobody's paying anything back.
Well, I saw
Government has no funds.
so let's see here. Robert like inflation. Like this dude just the former uh labor secretary just wrote a thing about it, I think today. Or he's really trying to get his idea across, I guess, because there are a lot of articles here that he's written, I guess. Uh, let's see. Oh, it's not inflation I'm looking for. I'm looking for interest. Yeah. So he's like, the January jobs report. Oh yeah, this is actually a very interesting take here. I forgot that this is where I saw this, so you might like part of this. The January jobs report from the U.S. Labor Department is heightening fears that a so-called tight labor market is fueling inflation. Uh, Therefore, the Fed must put on the brakes by raising interest rates. The line of reasoning is wrong. Among the biggest job gains in January were workers who are normally temporary and paid low wages, leisure and hospitality, retail, transport, and warehousing. In January, employers cut fewer of these workers than in most years because of rising customer demand combined with Omicron's negative effect on the supply of workers. Due to the Bureau of Labor Statistics seasonal adjustment, cutting fewer workers than usual for this time of year appears as adding a lot of jobs. So, like this 410,000 new jobs or whatever that's a supposed record, at least this guy is claiming it's just because they cut fewer jobs than normal, which is, I think that's
Yeah.
fucking fun.
I mean, yeah, you do add a lot of jobs when a bunch of people die. So
Um, so he's like, Fed policymakers are poised to raise interest rates, and then continue raising them in order to slow the economy. They fear that a labor shortage is pushing up wages, which in turn are pushing up prices, and that this wage price spiral could get out of control. It's a huge mistake. Higher interest rates will harm millions of workers who will be involuntarily drafted into the inflation fight by losing jobs or long overdue pay raises. There's no labor shortage pushing up wages. There's a shortage of good jobs paying adequate wages to support working families. Raising interest rates will worsen this shortage. There's no wage price spiral either, even though the Fed chief Jerome Powell has expressed concern about wage hikes pushing up prices. To the contrary, workers' real wages have dropped because of inflation. Even though overall wages have climbed, they failed to keep up with price increases, making most workers off or worse off in terms of the purchasing power of their dollars. Wage price spirals used to be a problem. John F. Kennedy jawbone steel executives in the United States steelworkers to keep a lid on wages and prices. Such spirals are no longer a problem because the typical worker today has little to no bargaining power. Only 6% of private sector workers are unionized. A half century ago, more than a third were. Today, corporations can increase output by outsourcing just about anything, anywhere, because capital is global. A half century ago, corporations needing more output had to bargain with their own workers to get it. These changes have shifted power from labor to capital, increasing the share of economic pie going to profits, shrinking the share going to wages. The power shift ended wage price spirals. Slowing the economy won't remedy either of the two real causes of today's inflation: continuing worldwide bottlenecks in the supply of goods and the ease with which big corporations, with record profits, pass these costs to consumers in higher prices. So basically, he just says like it's actually the supply chain and the fact that they're literally bilking us. He goes on to say how yeah, like a little bit of inflation is always good in our business. The chief executive of Kroger said, what we are very good at is pricing." The executive of Colgate, Palmolive, said. So he's like, we don't need inflation or we don't need price hikes in the interest rate because the reasons for the inflation aren't what the corporations claim it is. But I don't necessarily know how it's going to affect the corporations. I mean, he says it's going to slow the economy because, again, my overall sense of it is like bigger interest rate means more expensive money. So I guess that makes sense that it would slow things down.
yeah, like all lending. So if you take out a loan to like open a new office or a new like store somewhere, you now owe more money than you would have with a low interest rate. So it affects
Exactly.
jobs. Yeah, it affects job creation in that sense because then you have fewer people being hired. But he says the issue right now is that nobody's getting hired anyway. Like in my area right now, they're opening like an Aldi's and a bunch of other like some like fast food restaurants, and they all have like now hiring signs. And the Fry's that's open over here also has a now hiring sign, and that Fry's has been open for like years. So it's just like nobody has workers anywhere. It really doesn't matter what you do.
Right. And I mean, why would people? I mean, it really feels like things are grinding down to a place that, I mean, obviously we knew things are unsustainable, but they look to be becoming like untenable pretty quickly. I've seen a lot of that too. I mean, like I went to my local fries, and there was one lane open, one cash register. there was one lady doing it. She had no help at all. Uh, and there was a huge ass line, of people with full shopping carts for just her. And she looked like, she was like trying to get out of there at the end of her shift or whatever. And she was like calling for her other worker, like her managers that looked like her, or whatever, and they were just like ignoring her. It's like, what the hell? Like, what is happening?
That's not surprising at all. That makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds unfortunately like an average story in the American working landscape.
Yeah, there was a Dollar Tree with like I think it was like Kentucky where all the employees quit, and so it was just like the district manager running the store and like stocking the shelves and running the cash register. He was just there by himself. I mean, that's just funny because it's a manager, but I feel bad for like the state minimum wage worker, like person making like $11 an hour doing that.
No, exactly. And those jobs just don't make sense right now. I mean, and oh God, it's just such a cruelty that we let them be that way. We know there are bullshit jobs out there where people are getting paid like 15, 16, all the way up to like $28 an hour in some cases to like sit around and I don't know, maybe interact with one file or one call every so often, like every hour or so. Like work for a high rate, do very little. There are jobs like that out there. Like,
Like in general, the more money you make, the less you actually do. Essentially, like exponentially, of course. Once you pass like once you get into like six figures, the amount of work you do decreases very rapidly as your income scales upward.
um,
Or I guess like maybe not the amount of work you do, but like the number of different tasks that you have. And typically, the one task you have is just like answering phones and talking to people for a little bit.
I would agree. I pulled up this Wikipedia article. Uh, Bullshit Jobs is a book written by uh, this anthropologist David Graeber in 2018. Uh, who postulates the existence of meaningless jobs and analyzes their societal harm. So there's at least like one professional anthropological take on bullshit jobs out there. He says over half of societal work is pointless and becomes psychologically destructive when paired with a work ethic that associates work with worth. What? Uh, he describes 5 types of meaningless jobs: flunkies, goons, duct tapers, box tickers, and taskmasters. Yeah, and he proposes unions and universal basic income as a potential solution. Oh, I wonder
What
if
a
that's something
socialist.
we should do.
Andrew Yang still doing stuff, or did he finally give up?
Andrew Yang had a really horrible tweet. Actually, you're. Here, let me show you this fucking tweet. See what you think of it. Um. Oh, well, this is a funny one, but yeah. Let me just go to Andrew Yang here. Yang. So, oh no, did he remove it?
Yeah, probably. Everybody's removing tweets nowadays.
Damn. Um, let's see. So he said basically it was like Joe Rogan's not racist. He interacts with black people all the time. Was the first one, and then the second one was that like he has plenty of black friends that are willing to vouch for him.
My God, like the worst. These are the worst takes.
The first one was just hilariously bad. Like I commented under it. Oh yeah, so I should be able to find out. Oh, let me see if it still exists. No, the tweet was deleted. Well, that's great. Yeah, but I was like, regardless of Rogan, and I love you, Andrew. Oof to your argument, sir. Big oof. Like he said, he interacts with black people all the time. How can he be racist? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's like something Trump would say.
Oh man, like Andrew Yang is not a bad guy. I
He's a
think.
tech bro. He's 100% a tech bro.
Like, okay, there. This is an interesting crossroads in the shitting on lefties and liberals here because, like, we could honestly look at some of his stuff. Like, I watched something of his recently. Let me see if I can find it. Oh shit. Okay, well, we'll just right here. Okay, so like, we'll take this 8 minute clip for example. We'll start here. Like, do you watch much Andrew Yang ever? Or like,
No, I can't stand it.
you can't stand him?
Not really.
Why
I
not?
liked him at first, but I don't know. He's just kind of stupid.
Just because of like the signals we've gotten that he may be a grifter or what?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
I mean, that's one way to put it. But yeah, I just think he's not very bright. But it could be that he's just grifting.
See, I think he is kind of smart. I mean, like, I I buy when he says he's data driven. So like, here we'll just try this.
Yeah, I mean, he's a tech bro. But like, so is Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, no. Well, I think they're I think they're like different. I think Andrew Yang can say like the normal person like needs stuff to change, and the social media stuff is part of that. Here, let's just try what. Let's see what we think of this 8 minute clip. Like I okay, and
Yes. I think maybe this answer is really obvious, but I don't think I've ever asked you. Every reporter and everyone in media we've met is on Twitter, and they're on it a lot, right? They are the Twitter super
Twitter
users
is the sports gambling
for
of
media.
journalists.
For me, yes. And if you're on Twitter,
You're gambling in likes, people. You're gambling in retweets.
on Twitter, in order to get good at it, you have to just have takes. It's just takes, and takes don't have room for nuance because it's a short piece. So they're just like, what about
Yeah,
that?
that's
What
true.
about that? And you shouldn't do this. And you should do this, right? It's that over and over and over, and it drives us to this like black or white situation. And I just feel like we see it now in the mainstream media that's off of social media. You see it in the Times, you see it in the Post, you see it on TV, right?
So much of mainstream media coverage is like, get a load of this person and let's look down on them or shame
Right.
them
Can you believe that?
or cast them as immoral or
Right.
problematic.
Right.
I think I just summarized what, like 60% of media
They
coverage.
have to be, yeah. Yes. And Joe has given millions of Americans another outlet for that. And other content creators have followed suit with Joe because they know there's this massive hole in the market. But my question is, like, capitalism seems to be pro misinformation. It's pro any information as long as someone's willing to click it. And I'm curious your thoughts on
Well,
market driving this.
capitalism is pro the splintering of the American consciousness and the splintering of the media landscape. That's
Based.
where capitalism is going to lead us, especially in this era. Because, so if you rewind 30 years or whatnot, and let's say I had some bad shit ideas, like, how would I get attention to them? Quite difficult.
Yeah.
You know,
Very
like
difficult.
I could like write a letter to the editor that they would ignore. I could, like put up some bulletin board leaflets. I could stand in the town square with a sandwich board.
Or you can,
it's like
Yeah.
it's tricky for me.
You could be a flat earther with a lot of money and you buy a bunch of schools in Oklahoma. and then wait until the internet's invented and have them spread it online. Could also do that too.
You know,
Is
you
that
gather
is,
together
is that
an
what happened?
audience for my
That's exactly what happened.
insanity.
Holy shit!
I might have had the
Now
location
I
wrong,
don't
but
need
that's
much.
that
You know,
is
I
the
just
origin
need
story.
a camera and a bit of a personality, and then I can put something out. And so, whatever point of view you put out there, there's going to be a market demand for an alternative to it because people, especially in an era, oh, by the way, of collapsing institutional trust, where it's like, what are they telling me? Fuck that shit. Like, that can't be right. Like, oh, this person's here to tell me why they're full of shit.
Right.
So there's going to be this massive demand for like a different unvarnished point of view. Unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is going to be in opposition to the stuff that came before, which is something that's interesting about like a dynamic that even you and I share. So, like, I just listed a bunch of facts about the decline of American men,
Right.
and that somehow gets cast as ideological, even though all that stuff
It's just numbers.
it's just numbers. You
Right.
can look it up and be like this and that. But one of the reasons
Men are
why it
declining.
became really popular and interesting is because people sense that it's in opposition to the mainstream media narrative, which is not talking about the collapse of American men because that's off of their chosen direction. Like that, their chosen direction is spotlight various marginalized groups.
Or men are the problem because they are in positions of power and therefore you must.
Yeah, there's a zero sum. It's like, oh, in order for other people to succeed, other people have to fail. So one of the reasons why it took off is because it's in opposition to the conventional media
Right.
narrative.
Correct.
So that if you have this conventional narrative and then you're going to have this massive demand for what's left unsaid, and then there's going to be a whole set of people that fill it, attract an audience. This may be why people are so eager to uh, try to prevent any of this crew from getting a degree of institutional credibility because they can look at it and say, well, sure, your audience may be enormous, Joe Rogan, but you don't have the legitimacy of this MSNBC contributor because they're on cable
Right.
TV and we would never let you on.
Right. What I don't understand is these institutions are dying, right, by the numbers, right?
Oh God.
Isn't the issue that like he claims to not be, like an arbiter of truth or whatever, but then he brings on people that he knows are like that claim to be arbiters of truth and have them just go on, you know, what's the word? Like unabated. Like he doesn't question anything they say. He just lets them preach whatever. And he's like,
I
"Oh
think
wow, bro, that's so smart." Like
y-
that's
yeah,
the issue is the fact that he claims to be one thing, but then talks to people that obviously believe another thing.
yeah, I think he does question his guests. I mean, he definitely goes like harder on some than others. Uh, but yeah, he's had some atrocious guests on. It has been interesting to see that it's
I
been a
mean,
kind of bipartisan removal of his podcast, though, from
right?
Spotify. Like, of the 70 or so that were removed, it was like all kinds of people. That
Yeah.
I mean, they removed Kyle Kalinski's and the Amazing Atheists as well.
Is that actually true,
Yeah,
or is that misinformation? How do you know that? Who told
uh,
you that?
well, I heard it from Mama Crystal, so I hope it's
Oh,
true.
okay.
I'm relying on her.
No, that's fair. I was just wondering who told you that.
Well, it's fair. We need to we need to keep our
I need to get
sources
that as
straight.
well, but I wasn't able to confirm it myself. So
I'm assuming if Crystal's saying it, she's getting it from somewhere good. Not that I like all of her takes, like at all.
yeah, I mean, but like in all seriousness, like nobody, in all seriousness, nobody cared about Joe Rogan when he was just getting high and talking about aliens and stuff. It was during COVID when he first started off having good takes, and then you know started
Right.
discrediting all of the
Oh,
actual things that were helping people.
well, did you see? Let me see if I can find this clip actually, because this is astounding. Uh, did you see that clip? Let's see, 16. I think I'm on the trail here. Yes, I found it. This one. I'll send it to you, and I'm gonna just play it quick left screen. Because
Yeah, I
I
saw this
mentioned.
one.
Oh, you did?
We
Just
need to
talking
just
about
have straight
vaccine,
talk. Don't tell them it's
anti-vaxxers and
low
stuff.
risk. It's like
Yeah.
the hurricane, okay? You know, I would be really mad at you if I thought you were
Yeah,
a
but John, you
hurricane
can
forecaster
be
and you knew this was coming,
pro-vaccine,
but you
but
kept telling me, oh, it's
anti
low
this
risk,
one.
don't worry about it.
Right. Yeah.
And you know
once it hit.
why? Because
so
I
that's what we need to
feel
do.
that in my heart. Okay.
Feel
Yeah,
it
it's
in your
just say
heart?
this is going to be
Yeah.
challenging. And we're
My
going to
heart's
get
never
through it,
lied
though.
to
We
me.
are going to get through it.
What if your heart
Except
gets?
I hope this wakes
it's lied to me hundreds of times, but it would never lie to me this time.
people
I
up
feel
to
this
the
one
value of vaccines
wholeheartedly.
too. There's so many wackos out there that think that vaccines
Joe just
are,
wanted people to
you
know
a
the value of
scam or they're
vaccines. He didn't like
dangerous
people
or
who thought they
it's
were a scam or
there's so many
dangerous.
people out
He
there
thought
that
there were
won't
so many
vaccinate their
people
children.
out there
I know,
that
and that's
wouldn't
one. You know, one of
vaccinate
your
their
best shows here
children,
was Peter
and that was a
Hotez.
problem.
He's a
I
dear
love
friend
that
of mine.
And
guy.
then
I do too. He's a dear friend of mine.
and then
too.
Osterholm's like,
And,
"Oh
you know,
yeah, get
he
Hotez
is
on
one
there.
of the
He's
champions
amazing.
out
He's
there
a
in this area.
champion.
I couldn't agree with
He's
you
a
more. I think
champion."
that's really
And he is a
important
champion.
point.
That's
That,
why he's
you know,
up
we
for a
got to
Nobel
get this
Prize for
idea. These
potentially,
vaccines
and he
can be
deserves it.
life-saving. If we had
Peter
one right
Hotez,
now,
everybody,
think how different
with his
the
Corbevax
situation would be in
vaccine.
we're in right. Thank you for what
Yeah.
you do say
So,
about
oh yeah,
vaccines.
he's like, "Thank
People
you
listen to you,
for
and
your
they need
vaccine
everything.
information." Yeah, that was just amazing. Okay.
Oh, the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is he? What happened there? Like, literally everything he's
Well,
since
I would imagine money is what happened. $100
possible.
million is a lot of money.
I mean, how just like in California with fucking single payer, where they're like Newsom ran on that, and then there's some huge ass donation, like over $1 million. It's like not even a vote.
I mean, yeah, there's like, they have no argument now because the whole point was like, we can't have Medicare for all because we don't have like super majority of Dems in the Senate, in the House or whatever.
But this
But it's like
time
even
they
when you
did.
do, it's still just like somehow it never works. Nothing ever works. I wonder why.
Well, and that's where again, as the Marxist, we realize there is no peace. The oligarchs have to go.
Oh well, I'm not a Marxist.
I may or may not be a Marxist, but that's what they say. You know, there is no peace. The oligarchs have to go.
Just war, no peace.
I mean, when the water is full of carcinogens, and the state governments are going to team up with the corporations to keep people from getting screened medically, or to keep people from, getting any kind of compensation for their kids getting cancer or whatever, get treatment.
What kind of water should I drink?
Um,
Like, what kind of water do you drink, or do you just not? You know, it's so hopeless that you just drink it anyway.
I just filter it a little bit, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing you can do about all of it. Our water is nasty. The Americas, including the United States of America, uh, along with India, have like 2 times dirtier water, at least in terms of nanoplastics, and I'm sure the same it's true for PFAS and PFAS. Like even compared to Indonesia, their water is like twice as clean as ours, in some other country that would surprise people as well. And I forget what the other one was in the study. I was just reading about that. The water situation is very fucked. Uh, not good. Not a good thing. Like the fact that the United States is 5, 6, military industrial complex companies in the trench coat, and that we've got all these military bases on every like proverbial block. I mean, that's like where in Tucson there's a giant plume of PFAS and PFAS that's from the military base, and the military is doing everything they can to avoid having to pay for any of the cleanup or any of the mitigation to do with any of that. Because they're like, that's not our responsibility. And the state's like, well, that's not our responsibility. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, the water is not a good situation. Like plastic production alone, in terms of the ecological and I don't know, like health consequences of our water, um, like, and then on climate change, like plastic production alone is going to drive so much of this by like 2030 or 2040, especially since the plastic production is going to it is projected to rise. Like we're going to do more of it faster, like we're doing with all of these like really bad industrial schema. So the plastic obviously pulls along with it plenty of the fossil fuels because we use those to make the plastics. So again, the demand for plastics alone is going to furnish forth the coal burning that's going to, heat the atmosphere to the point where we're going beyond like 3 degrees and so forth. It's like, and these are all institutionally agreed upon realities that we're supposed to like gradually protest or something like that. I'm not sure I understand what we're supposed to do other than flip the table on this one if we can somehow.
But you don't. You're like Jeff. You don't trust bottled water.
Bottled water, no, I would not drink that. I do not. I avoid that actually specifically. I try like I will drink out of it if it's the only thing around. I'm parched, but I will preferentially not drink out of a plastic water bottle,
Interesting.
especially if it's been out in the sun for any amount of time.
Well, sure. Yeah, but that's like everybody knows that.
No, you'd be surprised.
I think everybody knows it, but a lot of people don't care. You just do it anyway.
I, people don't care that we're ingesting 5 grams of plastic every week. That's about a credit card. I mean, I care. I know I don't plan on having kids, so it's not going to screw up my kids. But um, that's not the only thing that is affected. Is the human germline? It's also nerve conductance speeds in certain patches of neurons. It is all kinds of endocrine disruption, not to mention cancer and inflammation. Yeah, plastic is, well, it's in all of the water, so unavoidable, but it's regrettable. I think we should be pissed. I think it's not a small, insignificant thing.
Well, it's certainly not. But it's like the Teflon stuff. Like we all just kind of know now that they're just poisoning us slowly, and there's not much anybody can do about it. Like Johnson and Johnson, and like uh, the people that made like the Zantac, they're like causing cancer and shit, and they're like just now having lawsuits brought against them
Exactly.
20 years after the fact.
Exactly. And yeah, yeah,
I mean, they just slightly rebrand as a different company, like Janssen,
yeah.
out of nowhere.
But we
Like,
just
oh, we're
need to
not
vote harder and rely on the law, right?
right.
Well, we get cancer and fucking die. This
This
shit.
amazing justice system
Yeah, we
never
have an
fails.
incredible system in the United States here. That's really on the side of the people. We're gonna let's see what they see.
CNN, MSNBC, even Fox. But they're still around and they're still driving our culture. Is capitalism going to crush them, or are they still kind of buoyed by other forms of American life to keep them in the game? Like does Joe Rogan become CNN? Like what?
I was
what
thinking
happens
about
here?
why these cable news channels have such power and currency,
Yeah.
and a lot of it is that they're very very lucrative. They're
Yeah.
very very profitable, to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So if you get knighted by one of them, they pay you, and there are so many media figures who are looking at it being like, wait a minute, like if I end up on air with one of these networks, they'll give me 6 figures for a part-time job, and that's one of the sweetest gigs. So all of the various folks in this universe want to be knighted
Yes.
by the cable networks. There's also a lot of vanity, and I will say the production values are very, very high. Where they make me look good, make anyone look good. Where like you go on there and they like they like make you up and put you on the studio and the rest of it. And, like,
They build up the Republican candidates. Fox News is very intentional about, you get more airtime in there, your polls start rising, you can contend for presidency or whatever it is.
And their audience is the sweet spot of primary electorate voters.
They vote.
Because they're in their 50s and 60s, and if you look at who's voting in these primaries, it's those folks.
Yep. I
Now,
think they're older than that, but yeah.
the average viewer of CNN is 59. The average Fox
right.
viewer is 65. Part of it too is that the production values are higher, so that if you even see an online
Or at least
clip
I can't
of
dispute
them,
that.
like it just
It looks
seems
good.
it just seems more legit. The people have makeup on.
It sounds
studios are
plausible.
nice. It's one reason why Crystal and Sagar they talked to me about their set on the hill, which is that if you had a video clip of that and it got sent to someone's parents, they would look at it and think it was legitimate because it looked like it might have been on cable.
Correct. And that was a thing when we were running for president in 2020. Legitimization was a big thing, right? Like they control that for sure, and it's because there's a lot of money and influence and, frankly, production value behind it.
So this is
But
something
anyway,
for
I feel
our stream's
like they're just
production
at the
value.
beginning of-
Consider
I don't
we'll
see it as
we'll
an
achieve
insight for
legitimacy.
more and more.
We will break out the
pro-Rogan
Ushankas and the
polarization
communist flags,
still, and Spotify might be the vehicle.
and
So
then
my
deny that we're
prediction is
communists.
something else going to happen.
Get
on
ourselves
Joe's
a banner.
podcast that when it's
Yeah.
clipped,
Like we-
start shit about
clip,
lefties.
it's going to be
With the hammer and sickle and red, we are not communists.
Spotify. And maybe Spotify has a decision to make. Maybe it's a no-brainer, but it then politicizes. I'm worried about politicizing our artists and our music.
Yeah, I mean,
over something that I don't think
he's
is that
got a point,
controversial, which is long
but I
conversations
can't-
with pretty much anybody.
I can't
It'll
believe
take
the
anybody
conclusion
interesting. I don't know if you
because
think
my
that's ever
parents
going
are
to
an
happen,
exception
or
to
if
it.
it's just going to be noise.
I know it's
I'm not
anecdotal,
sure that there's
but
going
it's
to be an
like,
issue that's quite as.
my parents
fraught
like
as
literally watch
COVID.
cable news all the time, but they
like, I
still
have a hard
voted for
time
Bernie.
imagining what else you could do that would
So it's like, I don't know, man.
as objectionable as your
Oh,
one
just
thing.
wait, man. There'll be a new big.
Like they didn't buy
Yeah,
the
maybe.
MSNBC
like, it's less,
programming.
yeah. If we're more and more like
Right.
irrational, then it
My
will
mom
take
loves
less to do it. but-
MSNBC,
Oh, that
like all the
yeah,
hosts
that'll
on there,
happen.
but she still voted for
That's
Bernie.
probably true.
I mean, like you said, I
Joe
mean,
Biden.
like
Biden.
it sounds
I
like
love
your
my
parents
Good
are
for Spotify for
critical
putting out,
people.
for holding strong, I guess, and I think
Critical
Joe handled
until it
well. I
comes
thought
to
he was- like he's like, I
not
had no hard
watching
feelings to Neil
mainstream
Young or
media.
Joni Mitchell. Like,
But-
I'm still a fan. He told us
True. I mean, like
how he
corporate
picked
media
the
is just
music
hard to
process.
swallow these days. It's really,
So
really vapid and bad.
buckle up.
Yeah.
I guess if we're cool enough, that'll happen to us. You know what I'm saying?
Well, didn't we just talk about how
I think I'm so like base pilled that it. Even when I hear it, I'm just like, oh, that's so clearly a talking point. Like, oh, that's
Yeah,
so
no.
clearly like clearly this dude is just saying that because he wants a very specific reaction out of the audience,
Well,
and then he doesn't get challenged by the reporter.
or just even the setups, like even the setups just tell you so much. Like today, that interview with Murkowski and Joe Manchin and Jake Tapper, and it's like, God, this is so disgusting. Like just this trifecta here is absolutely abhorrent. And then Joe Manchin goes into his fucking paternalistic, soft-voiced, guiding description of, oh, we're trying to work together as hard as we can. We're doing all the best we can. We're getting everybody in on it. Mitchie boy, he works with me so hard. Those are really my friends, the Republicans. We work with. If they have a good idea that works, we'll use it. It's like, oh, very simple logic, very nice, very patriotic, very good, very good.
He gets
Well-
shit done.
Joe Manchin? I mean, like, the dude is a titan for those corporations and for his own gig with his,
Yeah, he really
coal
works
mine.
hard for that yacht
Yeah,
that he has in the mountains of West Virginia.
the almost heaven.
Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Oh God. I take it back. I take all of it back.
It's 60 feet long, and somebody wrote an article about whether or not it was really big enough to be called a yacht. that's the media landscape we're in. It's like,
Completely roasted.
no, he's not that rich.
That's the media slander they actually care about. Whether their boat's a yacht or not. Like, how dare you?
I don't think it was meant to be insulting. I think it was meant to be like, no, he's really not this oligarch you think he is. Like,
I get it, saying it's like it's a good thing that it's not a yacht.
yeah, they're like, it's just a small craft, just 60 feet long.
Shows he's a working class hero.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
Like,
not destroying an historic bridge to move his yacht through a passageway or whatever.
I saw, does the Dutch Prime Minister deny that they're doing that? And apparently there are people ready with eggs if they do that.
I wouldn't be surprised. But again, I don't pay attention to anything outside of the U.S. borders.
I mean, you have a pretty thorough
Not even
knowledge
US
of what
borders,
goes
but
on
the-
within the U.S., so I'd say it's pretty excusable.
What'd you say?
You have a pretty thorough understanding of
Oh.
what's going on within our borders, so it's pretty excusable.
Thank you.
You were like ready to throw hands or some shit. You thought I-
Yeah, I thought you said the like opposite of that.
Oh.
Like, well, you don't really have a grasp on what's going on here, so it's like the best.
And you're like, excuse me? Did you pull me live to fucking call me out? Like...
Lefty talk shit about leftists to his face.
Lefty betrayed. Partner immediately. It's like,
So betrayal.
oh no. Yeah, the Halo guy betrayal. Eric is tweeting right now. See, like, he's so close, but not really. Like, he says organized civil disobedience is the correct next response to the prolonged, indefinite, and deliberate abuse of exotic emergency powers inconsistent with being a free people in our own country. This is ridiculous that he's saying this. He's like, I don't want to go there, but it's time. No. No, dude.
We should put him out on the front lines.
Like,
part 2.
I don't know.
Or is it
Like,
part 3?
there are some states where, and localities where there are things going on in terms of, like, COVID policy that might be annoying, but this is not happening. Like, this is not a thing. People are not losing their liberty and their freedom. And to the extent that they are, like, if
Yeah, I'm
when
pretty sure.
You go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure things are almost exactly how they were in like 2019.
Yeah.
Except
So it's
now
like,
you have to wear a face mask.
yeah, to the extent that anybody is actually losing out on business or profits or funds or like, you know, cutting even for having to follow restrictions, like, I'm sympathetic to that. You know, there should be, like, the government should fucking help them. You know, if they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing and it's legitimately incurring cost. If we actually gave a shit about small businesses, which, like, it's empirical that we basically don't. All of the PPP went to or 70% of it at any rate went to, you know, the largest conglomerates and the biggest owners. So, you know, we
still
don't
laid people off.
we don't really care that people are drowning. But yeah, then people are gonna just like protest restrictions and shit. It's like, this is not what the civil disobedience is needed for. It's like you were saying to me earlier, like, where are people upset about the fucking healthcare, the wages right now? Like, where is the civil disobedience around that? Like, what if everybody just agreed to stop paying rent or something like that? Like, what about that? Like, why isn't that happening?
We'd all have bad credit scores.
Like, what if everybody did it at the same time? Truly. But you could never do it. I mean, not right now. But that's what we're up to. Is step 0 is getting everybody on the same page, organizing that, pulling the rug out from under the oligarchs. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're about. That's the mission. That is
That's
the
the
mission.
goal.
That is the goal.
Dude, I'm prepared to die on the front lines.
Me too.
I don't even care.
I'm looking for a grenade to jump on.
I'm looking for the grenade. Looking forward to it.
All right, there's a Marianne Williamson. Her tweets are always bangers. Got one here. Norway, poverty rate 10%. United States, unfettered capitalism. Poverty rate 29%. Life expectancy in Norway 81.7. Life expectancy in the United States 79.6, and going down quickly. Infant mortality 2 per 1,000 in Norway. In the United States, it is 5.7 per 1,000. A murder rate in Norway of half a person per 100,000. A murder rate in the United States of almost 5 people per 100,000. The incarcerations in Norway 74 per 100,000. The incarcerations in the United States are 860 per 100,000. There is a GDP. What's that?
Said number one.
Number 1.
USA number 1.
We have Norway has a GDP of $75 per person, and we have a GDP of
$75,000, not $75.
$75,000 per person. That might be it.
$75 per person.
I think so.
Literally nobody.
I don't understand what this means actually. GDP of $75,000 per person, or GDP of
Domestic
50.
product.
Like, is that how much each person is contributing to the gross domestic product? Is that what that means?
I mean, not literally, but like on
Yeah,
average.
the average. Yeah.
Take all the GDP and divide it by the population, and that's the number you get.
So ours is 59,000.
Yes, a lot less than theirs.
Is that? I don't know. It looks like
I mean, our GDP is way higher than theirs. Our GDP is like the number 1 in the world. But when you account for population differences, that's why it's that low.
this looks like 75.5 per person. I don't know. Unless that's 75,500.
It's a comma. I'm pretty sure that's a comma.
I don't know. It could be 59,500.
I mean, why would it be? Why would there be 3 decimal points?
It's a good question. Because it's an average. But also,
No, but it's still though. Like, I promise you, it's 59,000.
59,000.
Because our GDP is like, I don't know, like 4 trillion or something.
That
So it wouldn't make sense
yeah.
if it was $59 per person.
Because we only have 330 million people. Alright, I buy it now.
Yeah.
It's
Think about, like the average salary in the U.S. is like 34,000.
a terrible comma.
GDP is per person is way less than that.
It's like literally not a comma, but
Yeah.
I accept that you were correct.
Well, she's a woman, so you can't blame her.
I suppose so. I mean, by that metric, I may be as well. But hey, gender identity, gender is a construct, basically, is where we're at. So ranks, second happiest country is Norway. We are the 14th. They have free universal health care. We have unpaid insurance-based health care. They have free higher education. We have expensive higher education. They have financial security for seniors. We have no security for seniors. They have 83% home ownership. We have 63% home ownership.
Don't we have Social Security?
Don't we have what?
Social Security?
Oh yeah, we do have that. I don't know why we put no security for seniors on here. It's a good point. There's
Sounds
some
like,
security for
misinformation.
seniors. Some
Sounds like some
security.
agitprop.
Hey, that's what we're about here. That's what we're doing. and trying to get people mad about it. It's infuriating.
So maybe we should break this up by races. I bet if you only counted, because Norway is like 99% white. So if you did this numbers with the United States of like just the white people in the United States, it'd be very similar.
I can believe that.
Do with that what you please. Interpret that however you want.
I mean, we
Just
would
remember what month it is before you come to any conclusions about what I'm saying.
we would uncover some god awful disparities. Is what I suspect.
I'm not allowed to say the 3-letter word because I don't want to get burned,
What is
banned from public schools.
the 3-letter word?
I think you know what it is.
I'm not sure I do. I'm gonna just finish this list because we only have 3 left. Living wage is the minimum in Norway. Poverty wage is the minimum in the U.S. 8 weeks paid vacation per year in Norway. No paid vacation per year in the United States. 35 weeks paid parental leave in Norway. No paid parental leave in the United States. Average personal tax rate 38.52% in Norway, and in the United States it's 37%. It's only a little bit less. It's 1.52% less, and we have so much way worse outcomes. What gives?
Yeah, shit
It's
sucks.
unfettered capitalism.
Also, I was referring to critical race theory. But
Oh, CRT.
yeah,
Now I've indoctrinated 5 children into the CRT alliance
it's
this
a lot of children.
this
What are you doing
week.
talking to children?
This week alone,
Damn,
and
good numbers.
yeah, the numbers are pumping, and I was wondering what your performances look like with respect to the induction of critical race theory alliance members.
Into the minds of young people.
Yeah, no,
I am
specifically for
I'm
child
currently on
recruits.
sabbatical, so my numbers are very low.
Okay.
In the zeros.
We're gonna need you to
Ranging
bump
from
those
0 to
up.
0.
We're gonna need you to bump those up for us, okay?
I know. Well, again, sabbatical. You know, it's hard to. You can't teach when you're on vacation. You know.
It's not an excuse. Like, just because you're in Hawaii doesn't mean you can't teach some pineapple or coconut about critical race theory and get more Marxist Leninists in the schools.
Base pill.
Very base pill.
I'm gonna base pill a bunch of Honolulans.
You can uproot this country with communism from within. They will never see it coming. They literally don't talk about that ever. They never talk about uprooting the country with communism.
I thought they talked about that all the time. Like, isn't that why they're terrified of AOC? She's like the granddaughter of Marx or something.
Terrified of AOC's feet.
Yeah, her dad was a Bolshevik, and her mom was the not Bolsheviks.
The
Modern
Mensheviks.
Romeo and Juliet story.
Oh wow, that'd be an interesting take on it. A Bolshevik and Menshevik uh, version of Romeo and Juliet. Because what are they? The Capulets and the Montagues. Yep, that's it.
Good times. Remember when Leonardo DiCaprio played a movie, and they had like guns,
Yeah, that's actually
like a Romeo
lit.
and Juliet movie?
It is lit.
Yeah, it was pretty badass.
It really
You watch it like
was.
9th grade.
Yeah, I watched that.
Could have won an
So-
Oscar. Also, Google says the GDP per person is 63,000 in the U.S. as of 2020.
Wow, that was some magic prop. They lowballed it by like $10,000.
Yeah,
I actually have to
that's
go
the trick.
back.
Is you make sure every panel on your agitprop comic comes from a different year. That's how you do it. Or like when they do those crime stats, they use different metrics for each of the different crimes. And pick whichever metric makes it the highest. And it's like, see, all of the crime exists in Democratic neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and the crime rate in Republican cities is 0.
That's one of the problems, actually. One guy who analyzed the current FDA and CDC study, like the most recent one that said lockdowns weren't effective at all. First of all, it defines lockdowns as like, I believe, any measure of restriction. So like Australia and the United States were treated the same, which is amazing. And then the other thing is it was like a pick your own start and end point. So like that's amazing. Uh, like so we don't know if they use that misleadingly, but when you pick your own start,
For you,
what's that?
that's science for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like it's very interesting to watch scientists from across the pond, across the water, be like, "Yep, this is like the matter of whether or not this was effective in the United States is politicized, like everything in the United States."
Again, we're number 1.
Oh, Andrew Yang coming out with the apology tweet. Racism is real, deep, corrosive, and even lethal. I know that. I made a mistake in an earlier tweet tonight that downplayed future reality. The first comment under it is your brain on centrism.
Exactly. He's such a joke. He's in way over his head.
I mean, like, the
I still
forward.
laugh at like the when he got like he was running for mayor, and somebody called him out on his shit about his support for Israel, and then he was just like speechless. That was pretty golden. Yeah, he's not a real leftist. His only good policy was UBI, until you actually read the details of it, and then even that sucks. So, I'm
Because,
sorry.
like, because you're saying, like, he cut the other program so it wouldn't be worth it.
Everything else. So that fixes, like, none of our issues. I still can't afford healthcare with $1,000 a month. All my money would literally go to premiums, like premiums and deductibles.
Yeah. I mean, like, we need to change. I don't know what. Well, this is the point of the
What kind of apartment
podcast
are you
or
gonna get
whatever
for
the fuck
$1,000
this
a month?
is. This is the point of there is no peace, is because there are so many people being priced out of even rent right now. I mean, that's literally the point. Is like, what will we be able to fucking afford if we don't change something? Even, like, well, the middle class to a certain degree is getting fucked the most because they can't live in Section 8 because they make too much, but they don't make nearly enough to live in any of the other houses that would be available because they're like astronomically expensive. So people are just getting fucked out of being able to afford anything.
That's what they mean when they say like you get locked into poverty. Like once you pass a certain threshold, you lose all your like unemployment, or not unemployment, but like your food stamps and your Medicaid and stuff.
Right.
But then it's like once you pass that threshold by like $1, you're way too poor to afford anything. Like way too poor to actually afford food at the grocery store, and way too poor to afford even the most basic healthcare plans. So you end up making, like, on paper you make more money, but in terms of disposable income you have virtually none. Once you make $1 over the federal poverty limit.
Exactly. And people try to say Joe Biden, had this super progressive thing going on for him when he gave us fucking less money than the Trump administration. And they try to say, the American government gave its people more money than any of the other governments. Like bull fucking shit. Most of it went to, again, the larger conglomerates and owners. And to the extent that that is true, we have to look at the context of this. Like people have massive debts and shit, and we're fighting not to get evicted. Plenty of people did get evicted even when the moratoria were in place. We're having a massive eviction crisis now. It's like people could barely afford to live, as you're describing. So it's like we say this is a super progressive thing. Biden's administration is amazing, like because we just gave so much money. Like, well, people are fucked. Like, I don't. Again, there is no peace. There is no peace.
Yeah. I was gonna say something, but now I've forgotten.
Well, pull up.
But I do agree, yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna say it kind of sucks, like the fact that they waited till like, the bullshit of, like waiting until the last week before anything expires to tell you if there's gonna be an extension,
Oh,
like with student
exactly.
loans.
So you
Like
can
that's
rip
not
your hair out the whole time.
right. Like you're totally stressed out about the fact you have a new payment coming in, and then you wait till the week before to like extend it, and then he's just like, "Oh, see this good thing I did for you? I bet you're relieved now."
Exactly. I bet
It's like,
you
wow,
have an emotional catharsis and relate it to me in my genteel way.
yeah, it's all full of shit.
Horrible,
Now we
horrible.
have our what's it called? The not peaceful transition, but smooth transition to repayment.
Yeah,
We
a
went from
smooth.
build back better to smooth transition.
I love that because when Jen Psaki said it, it's a smooth transition to repayments is one of the highest priorities for the administration. That's what she said. Woo! That's awesome. One of the highest priorities, baby. And why wouldn't it be? I mean, he's doubled the budget for uh, police officer recruitment. He's going to keep the debt. I mean, what did he do to solidify the debt? He basically created it. I mean, the memes about this are fantastic. He's like, oh, these people believed I was going to remove something I created in the first place. Like, he signed a bill. I think he signed a bill that made sure that we couldn't default on our student loan debt or something like that.
Oh,
And
he wrote the
obviously,
bill. Yes.
okay,
Yeah, he was like the sponsor of that bill.
exactly. And I mean, obviously, they were going to appeal, what, this guy's ability to, declare bankruptcy or something like that from his student loan. Um, but the Daily Poster reported about it, got a whole bunch of people barking up their tree, and they actually reversed the appeal process on that, which is that was a good move by Sirota. That dude, like, moves shit.
David Sirota.
Yeah. He wrote the script for Don't Look Up, and some of his stories have arguably been pretty consequential in terms of like actually getting the administration to turn around on something. It's happened like twice. It's been kind of surprising.
I think I heard about that actually.
People with vitamin D with less than 20 nanograms per milliliter were 14 times more likely to get severe COVID-19 than those with greater than 40 uh, nanograms per milliliter.
What are you talking about?
So if you said you have a vitamin D deficiency, Roger Schwelt, MD, says people with vitamin D less than 20 nanograms per milliliter are 14 times more likely to get severe COVID.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would agree with that. That's what my doctor told me.
Vitamin D is like
Mine was like
unless
13 at one point, but that was like years ago.
they you were 13 at one point, or it was 13 nanograms per milliliter. You were saying?
Like when I first got diagnosed with it, which is like dangerously low.
Yeah.
But that was when I lived in New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was like midwinter. So there's no sun.
Did you see that Amazon is it has a class, a high school class in California?
Wait, what? I was looking at Beaverman's meme because we were just talking about this.
Oh, Beaverman's.
Yeah, in the channel Abyss.
So funny.
Yeah. Anyway, what were you saying?
Fucking. What was I saying? I don't know, because it was just so entertaining just now to dunk on Andrew Yang for some reason. I got
Yeah.
distracted. I was on the vitamin D before. Oh, I kind of had an inkling of it. I almost had it. Oh yeah. Have you seen that Amazon has a high school class in California?
Oh, no, I don't think so. They're, like training them to be Amazon workers,
Yeah.
essentially.
Let me
Jeez.
pull this up. Amazon high school class.
Dude, the world is over. I feel like I saw a clip of it and I thought it was a parody. This is
No,
like depressing.
this is real. Oh,
They're taking the Amazon pledge.
So like one of the things in their syllabus was it was brainstorm ways you could motivate your employees other than large bonuses and high salaries. I like that a lot. That's really nice.
Dude, hell yeah.
And then so let's see here. It's 2019. In 2019, I assume it's Cajon High School, which is pretty funny. Like Cajones, I don't know. Cajon High School in San Bernardino, California, started offering the Amazon Logistics and Business Management Pathway, a first of its kind series of courses intended to help students get a head start in career logistics. Amazon donated $50,000 to provide the necessary materials to start the program, and apparently to do some redecorating. The classroom for the Pathways program is painted in Amazon's signature yellow, with Amazon's leadership principles, customer obsession, bias for action, deliver results, written on the walls. The curriculum for the courses obtained by Motherboard via public records request, which includes lesson plans on managing labor unions, making ethical decisions, and motivating employees, were written by a team of educators from Cajon High, Cal State University, San Bernardino, and Chaffey College, a local community college, according to Karina Borsuk, a spokesperson for San Bernardino Unified School District. Amazon acted only as an industry expert and offered internships to students in the program. And then it's got like the syllabus and shit. The goal is to help educators better understand how to shape the course curriculum so students graduate ready to be hired in that industry.
The industry of Amazon.
Yeah, much of
The
the
industry of
curriculum
one company.
is very, very pro business. Yeah, the industry of a single company.
Yeah, we're fucked.
They also teach the students about like the history of the company and like Amazon's mission and shit.
When it used to be a bookstore, and he
Yeah.
priced all the other bookstores out of the market.
Amazing.
And now every book costs like $30 minimum.
They teach what is a labor union, how is it organized, what is collective bargaining, and what are key negotiation issues. I'm sure they have no slant to that at all. And I'm sure like we're gonna obviously see more of these because schools need the money. I mean that's it's somewhere buried in here. Yeah, here it is. It saddens me that schools are in this situation that they quite willingly would take this money and then in the case of this particular classroom make it into a shrine to Amazon.
Yeah. Sad.
Very sad.
62% of Amazon employees in Los Angeles rely on government assistance. That's what I saw a passage in there about that. Kind of fucked.
62% are on like food stamps and stuff.
Yeah. I know like Walmart's like the highest like Walmart employees are like the highest recipient of food stamps in the country.
Oh god.
It's like we literally subsidize their workforce.
It actually reminds me. Have you seen the Janet Yellen and Jon Stewart interview?
It's not part of it.
It's
I haven't
like
watched his new show yet. I know it's on there on like Apple TV, whatever.
you reminded me with a Walmart thing. Like I feel like this is great interview.
I think the 2008 crisis is a great example. You know, instead of a big fire hose of money being turned on those mortgages that went underwater and brought them back to sea level, they chose to pour money into those bundles, and a lot of people lost their houses.
People had every reason to feel unhappy about what happened. The purpose of intervening so that big financial institutions and markets didn't completely fail was to avoid a drying up of credit in the economy. If those financial institutions had been allowed to fail, the toll on ordinary families would have been not only bad, which it was, but unspeakably horrendous. We would have been looking at something like the Great Depression.
I think for people, they would view it as, well, if I'm going to lose my house, that's a crisis. You know,
Wait, the whole interview's
I
6
don't
minutes.
have a
Yep.
backstop.
Oh, then I've
That's
seen the whole
an
thing.
important
Oh,
But yeah, we
okay.
can watch it
reason
again.
why when the pandemic struck,
I thought this was like
President
clips from it.
Biden and
Not the whole
This
thing.
may be it. I hope it's a clip from it. I hope you got more than 6 minutes
on
with it.
using fiscal policy, not the Fed, to get
So
help
you've seen this
to
clip
all
though.
those who really need
Yeah.
it.
But corporate America gets all the benefits of American stability and fiscal policy, but bears none of the responsibility. I'll give you an example. Walmart. They make billions in profits. Their workers are one of the largest
That's probably where I heard it
corporate
from.
users of social
Oh.
service programs. Why don't Walmart workers share in the profits of Walmart?
You know, in the capitalist system, companies have a right to distribute profits to their shareholders.
Mhm.
They're not forced to. There's nothing in the law that
But
forces
aren't we
them to share
subsidizing?
their.
This is the insidious part, I think, of when we talk about that we have a free market system. Because what it makes it seem like is that the natural order of things is that Walmart makes billions in profits and can distribute it to its shareholders, and that's just how it goes. But we know that we, the taxpayers, are subsidizing their workforce with food stamps. They're getting the benefit of our tax dollars. So it's not free market.
The government, in many cases, should be running programs. It's not necessarily the case that Walmart should do that directly.
You don't feel they are responsible because they benefit from fiscal policy. They benefit
I feel
from
like
the
she didn't
American
understand what
They
he was
benefit
saying.
from fiscal policy, but I think the way
Or like deliberately
making them
misunderstanding.
pay is
She's like a robot.
by taxing them
Wait,
and
Simon,
making
she's
sure
yeah.
that their
She's very much
profits
like,
provide
I
the
only have 4
resources,
lines.
to
I don't know what else to
provide
say to
that
you.
infrastructure.
You would
Well,
rather they
a
still
free
make
market system, you
their
see.
billions in profit, but as
Like,
long
he's
as
not
they
saying
pay
that
us
Walmart
taxes
should run
so
food
that we
stamps.
have enough
He's saying
to
that
give their
they should
workers
pay
food
those people enough
stamps,
so they can eat food.
that's okay.
We also need to invest in their workers so that they can have jobs that will produce better pay, that they'll have the skills to be able to compete.
But it feels like the system doesn't have accountability for those at the corporate level. How do we build
Well,
that into the system?
I mean, I think there's a lot of truth in what
I mean, I'm
you're
not against
saying,
everybody
and
just having
we are
food
very
stamps.
focused on
That would
trying
solve
to
a lot of
make
issues.
sure that companies are responsible and do pay their fair share. So
But we
corporate,
slash the IRS budget. We have all,
Well,
we
we've
make
done-
accountability very difficult.
we're trying to reverse that. We're proposing a substantial increase in resources for the IRS so they can go after tax evasion.
Probably
And I'll
in
tell you about another
Biden's
thing that's
Yeah.
agenda that
important.
hasn't
All over
gone
the
anywhere.
world, countries have been
course.
competing with one another to attract these companies.
Like that's how they get away with it. It's like, oh, we're trying to do it.
Every
Like,
country
no,
has
you're not.
stories of companies having power and saying to governments, cut our tax rates or we're going to go someplace else.
Is the problem here that corporations feel like they have this country over a barrel?
We have a
That's-
system where political contributions are important and where
Right.
wealthy corporations and individuals use the power of
Access.
access to skew the playing field.
He's like, let me
But
supply the
the
word for it.
administration has a
Yeah, it's like
different
this shit
view,
pissed me off because
we
all of them
wanna
are like
make
this.
sure that
It's like he's supposed to be like,
He's the
you know,
Treasury
pay
Secretary.
fairly,
yeah,
that
these supposed to be
they
like
pay
the
their
smartest
fair
people in the
share,
country. That's
and
why they have
we're
these
making
positions.
investments in
But like none of
people
them can
and
ever complete a
communities that
sentence.
are
Fight you on this.
necessary
When
to
you-
Oh,
invest.
she's
That's
well,
like
she's a
coherent
robot. She's a Fed
Try to
robot.
change fiscal policy
Well, yeah,
in that
right.
way.
But I
Where's
mean,
the
even
fight
like
for-
Obama
what are
was the same way
headwinds?
when he does interviews.
Why is it difficult?
Like he can
to
never
push-
complete a sentence without
Well, the
stopping.
headwinds
And I'd
come-
like some names. Let me get
It's
a
like
pen.
it's just words.
You know,
Just say whatever you're
people
thinking.
don't like to have their taxes increased, and
They're always just so everybody's so calculated.
you know, we
and
need
Yeah.
it
to
drives me
raise
crazy.
more tax revenue in order to finance the investments that our economy needs to be productive and for families.
Of course,
Just
yeah,
the
it's like
way
the
he
simple,
speaks.
the simple yes or no question, but nobody can ever just say yes or no.
Well, you see, we're trying to leverage the revenue for that.
It's like, all right, we get it. You just don't like people. You don't like poor people.
People need to have the skills to be able to earn the jobs that allow them to earn the higher pay. Now, I know that's not what she said, though.
That's basically what she said.
It's close.
I don't really have anything to say about Jon Stewart. I know we're supposed to talk shit about lefties, but
I don't have
he
any.
kind of sucks. He kind of sucks for leaving Comedy Central to go work for one of the worst like monopolized companies out there. But oh
For
well.
Apple. I mean, like,
Yeah,
if you're working,
you always live long enough to become the villain or whatever the fuck is the phrase.
I just don't know, like, where people. I mean, I guess he could do shit somewhere else. Like, he's famous enough. but I don't know. Like it's probably just a good deal or whatever.
Yeah, it's always about the money.
Yeah. I mean, like I can't
Like,
say I'd say
the
no
rights-
to a sweet deal like that.
Well, sure, but it's just about like you're giving exclusive rights for your like content to one company.
He's like one giant granted concession, right? Like they're like, yeah, we'll have this on our
It says
platform because it's popular and people will buy
hey,
it. People will
it
like
says
buy our
your
subscription.
yo. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
It says your stream is unavailable. It says stream is suspended for policy violations. I called it.
Oh.
I told you this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're coming after us, man. We got flagged.
Oh my god.
It took what? How long were we streaming? What time did you call me? Like an hour ago.
Oh man.